Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is season 9, episode 9, number 149. Today we're going to talk about several things as normal. The history of the Spaghetti Westerns. We're going to talk about Viva Maria, often overlooked. Who are those guys? Going to be a number of actors we know nothing about. If you know something about them, please let us know. They've been mysteries for a long time. Whatever became of will be Rick Battaglia. Film of the week is Django the Bastard. Got an autograph, a couple of posters, a book of the week, and then we'll wrap things up with the CD and album of the week and the weekly news. So let's get started in history of the Spaghetti Westerns and Viva Maria. Okay, excuse me. Let's see what we got here. History of the Spaghetti Westerns, Viva Maria. This is a 1965 French-Italian co-production. International title is just Viva Maria, directed by Louis Malle. Story and screenplay is by Louis Malle and Jean-Claude Carrier. Cinematography is by Henri Decaille. It's an Eastman color and Panavision. Music is by Georges Delerue. There's a couple of songs in here. This is one of these movies that you can call it a drama, a musical, a comedy. It's a combination of everything. Songs are Paris, 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 Des Petites Femmes, and Maria, Maria. All of the songs are sung by both the Marias, Brigitte Bardot and Jean Moreau. It runs 122 minutes. The main actors are Maria Fitzgerald O'Malley, played by Brigitte Bardot. Maria number 2, that's what she goes by, is Jean Moreau. The Great Rodolfo is played by Claudio Brook. Flores is played by George Hamilton. Don Rodriguez is played by Carlos Lopez Moctezuma. And there's some other people in the film that you'll recognize. Werther, played by Poldo Bendandi. El Presidente is by Ferris Guila. And the story goes, and it's a long one, but you can't really condense this thing, so bear with me. It's 1891, and we are introduced to an IRA bomber named O'Malley, played by Fernando Wagner, and his young assistant daughter, Maria Fitzgerald O'Malley, played by Brigitte Bardot. They travel from Dublin to London in 1894, into Gibraltar in 1901, and then to Central America in 1907. They're bombing British Empire targets while on the run. After her father dies, Maria O'Malley hides in a traveling circus where she witnesses Maria II's, played by Jean Moreau, partner commit suicide after a failed love affair. Both Marias then agree to form a theatrical team. In her debut as a singer, Maria O'Malley accidentally invents the striptease, an action that lets the circus achieve great fame. Shortly afterwards, the Marias meet Flores, played by George Hamilton, a socialist revolutionary. He invites them to join his cause, a revolution against El Dictador, but Flores is soon shot. On his deathbed, he makes Maria too promise to carry through with his cause, and she agrees. Though at first reluctant to acquiesce to Flores and Maria O'Malley endeavor, Maria too joins the cause when she comes to the aid of her vulnerable friend. The rest of the film concerns the revolution. After Maria O'Malley leads her men into an ambush and Maria too saves them, the women create a peasant army, organizing the countryside into a quasi-socialist state. There are numerous sight gags and comic actions at this time. Preparing to take the capital city, the Marias are captured by a Catholic Father Superior played by Francisco Riguera, who fears the disorder of a revolution and wants to stop the people from treating the women like saints. After a bungled attempt to tickle to torture them, the Inquisition's equipment is too old to work well. the Marias are rescued by their victorious army. This, for me, is when the film goes off the rails. A group of rebels, led by another leader, Pablo, played by Roberto Pedret, attack the town as planned, but the soldiers are ready. With a machine gun and barricades in place, a lively street battle ensues. The rebel troop arrives later from the decoupled train to join the dictator. As the dictator tries to shoot the Marias against the federal superior's wishes. The troop theatrics add the scene with pigeons dropping hand grenades. Rodolfo shooting his curved gun at a barricade. The gun has been perfected with the advice of Maria. Acrobats swinging into open windows, etc. The Marias are rescued from the firing range as Rodriguez is shot by the curved gun. The general is killed by the troop strongman Luis Rizzo with a billiard cube. The father superior, in a dramatic switch, now greets the two Marias with open arms before being accidentally killed by a hand grenade lobbed by the dying Rodriguez. The headless father superior heads down steps carrying his head in his arms saying, "Ah, women." Revolutionaries are victorious and march to the streets in honor of the two Marias and their dead leader Flores. Finally, they move to France, where the circus is recreated as a successful musical version of the revolution. The women now wear dark wigs to look more Latin American. It's really crazy. Starts off like a revolutionary film, like the typical spaghetti western revolutionary films, but it soon devolves into mayhem, slapstick, comedy, which is terrible at the very end. As far as talking points go, this is basically an action western with comedy elements, political overtones, religious philosophy, and an anti-wealth statement all combined in the premise, along with musical singing numbers. Jeff Stafford of Turner Classic Movies says director Louis Malle and co-writer Jean-Claude Carrière modeled the film after the Western buddy movie Vera Cruz, starring Gary Cooper and Burt Lancaster. At the time of filming in 1965, it was a time of radical student movements, and they saw in the heroines the two different approaches to revolution. But the film is very disjointed, trying to cram in too many subjects and messages while trying to add humor and musical numbers in order for it to pass the European censors. During filming, an extra was killed when he fell off an ox cart, and filming was also held up when Bardot fell ill. Acting is top-notch with a mixture of some recognizable faces, some star actresses, and excellent photography. Louis Malle was telling the story of the filming during a television show. For the battle towards the end of the film, many extras had been called upon. Among them were members of rival gangs who took advantage of the situation to settle scores with live ammunition. As a result, there were several wounded and possibly deaths. It was the 9th most popular film of 1965's France. Both Moreau and Bardot were nominated for Best Foreign Actress at the 20th British Academy of Film Awards, with Jean Moreau winning the award. Banditas, a 2006 Euro-Western comedy, is often compared to Viva Maria. If you want to see it, it's available on Blu-ray in the USA, Australia, Germany, France, and Japan. It's on DVD in the USA, Germany, France, UK, and Australia. And you can watch it on YouTube, but it's chopped up into those multiple segments of like 4 minutes each. So if you want to go through that, be my guest. As far as actor profiles are concerned, Maria Fitzgerald O'Malley was played by Brigitte Bardot. She was born Brigitte Anne-Marie Bardot in Paris on September 28, 1934. She's a model, ballet dancer, singer, producer, and film actress. Her sister is actress Marie-Jeanne Bardot, born in 1938. She started her acting career in 1952 and achieved international recognition in 1957 for her role in And God Created Woman. In 1956 and immediately became a sex symbol. She appeared in some 60 films from 1952 to 1973. After retiring from acting in 1973, Bardot became an animal rights activist and created the Brigitte Bardot Foundation. She was married 4 times, including once to director Roger Vadim from 52 to 57. Bardot has appeared in 2 other European westerns as Countess Irina Lazar in 1968 Shalico with Sean Connery, and as Louise in as Louise Frenchie King Miller in 1971's The Legend of Frenchie King with Claudia Cardinale. Since 1992, she and current husband Bernard Ormale reside in Saint-Tropez with 50 pets. Maria, too, was played by Jean Moreau. Jean Moreau was born in Paris on January 23, 1928. She was a producer, director, writer, singer, film, and TV actress. She was the daughter of Catherine Buckley, who was born in 1907 and died in 1977. Uh, I'm sorry, let me start that again. Moreau made her theatrical debut in 1947 and established herself as one of the leading actresses of the Comédie Française. Moreau began playing small roles in films in 1949 and went on to appear in nearly 150 films and TV series, and achieving stardom as one of France's greatest actresses, known as the French Bette Davis. She was also a singer who released several albums and once performed with Frank Sinatra at Carnegie Hall in 1984. She was married twice and is the mother of Jérôme Richard, born in 1950. Moreau died in Paris on July 31st, 2017, at the age of 89. This is her only Euro Western. Then we have the great Rodolfo, played by Claudio Brook. Claudio Sidney Brook Marnat was born in Mexico City on August 28, 1927. He was a stage, film, TV, and voice actor. His career spanned nearly 40 years, and he was one of the stars of the golden age of Mexican cinema. Brook was married 3 times and had 4 children. Brook died of stomach cancer on October 18, 1995, at the age of 68. He appeared in 1 other Euro Western as Sanchez in 1979's Eagle Wing. Then we have Flores, played by George Hamilton. George Stevens Hamilton was born in Memphis, Tennessee on August 12, 1939. He's a producer, film, and TV actor. His father was band leader George Spike Hamilton. Born in 1901, he died in 1957. He's appeared in around 130 films and TV appearances beginning in 1958. Still active today, he's seen quite often in TV commercials. He was married to Alma Stewart from 1972 to 1975 and has 3 children. This is his only Euro Western appearance. Then we have Don Rodriguez, played by Carlos Lopez Moctezuma. Carlos Lopez Moctezuma Pineda was born on November 19, 1909 in Mexico City. He appeared in over 220 films from 1938 to 1985. He was married to actress Josefina Escobedo, who was born in 1914 and died in 1997, and the father of 2 children and the great-grandfather of actress Andrea Lopez Moctezuma. Carlos died in Mexico City on July 14, 1980, at the age of 70. This was his only Euro Western appearance. So that does it for Viva Maria. And now we'll move on to whatever became of Rick Battaglia. Okay, Rick Battaglia. He was born Caterino Battaglia in Cordoba, Rovigna, Italy. After working at a variety of jobs, including working on a freighter, he was then spotted while working in a bar by director Mario Soldati and was signed by producer Carlo Ponti. Soldati cast him opposite Sophia Loren in 1954's La Donna dei Fiumi, The River Girl. From that experience, Rick decided to pursue an acting career. He studied drama for 2 years and then was cast by Riso Amaro for La Risai, The Rice Girl, directed by Raffaello Matarazzo in 1956, in which Battaglia appeared in the same kind of role opposite another sexy beauty, Elsa Martinelli. He then appeared in several obscure peplums and such adventure films as Sandokan La Tigre de Bonpracem, Sandokan the Great, by Umberto Lenzi in 1963 with Steve Reeves, and then westerns both in Germany and Italy and Spain. He rose in the ranks to supporting roles but never quite achieved the top tier in stardom. Still, he was a fan favorite and always turned in a reliable performance no matter what the role or the size of the part he was asked to portray. While appearing in several of the Karl May Western, Battaglia developed a German fan base in those years. That changed abruptly when he became Winnetou's murderer, Rollins, in 1965's German Winnetou film The Desperado Trail, in one of the most memorable scenes of the series. Previous to the film's release, production company Rialto hinted that Winnetou would be killed in the movie, which led to spontaneous protests organized by children's magazines. Battaglia was booed at the premiere and later confessed that people continued complaining about his vile act for years, even though several films, all presented as prequels, had been made, with Brice as Winnetou in the meantime. When director Harold Reinl asked him again for a Winnetou movie, he allegedly answered, "Only if I don't have to kill the hero." This reaction can be related to Bruce Dern killing John Wayne in The Cowboys. Battaglia was billed under several pseudonyms, such as Rick Austin, Ricardo Battaglia, and Rick Battaglia, spelled R-I-C-K, in his more than 100 films and TV productions from 1959 until his retirement in 1999. His last feature film was Buck il confine del cielo, Buck at the Edge of Heaven, directed by Tino Ricci, in 1989 with John Savage. In 1995, Rick was awarded the Schlarf, the oldest award associated with Karl May. After his retirement in 1999, on March 27, 2015, Battaglia died of heart failure at his home in Carbola, in the province of Rovigo, Italy. He was 88. Some of Rick's more famous appearances were in Apache's Last Battle in '63 as Dixon, The Desperado Trail, as mentioned, in '65 as Rollins, Thunder at the Border in '66 as Sergeant or Captain Mendoza, This Man Can't Die in '67 as Vic Graham, Blackjack in '68 as Skinner or Sanchez, Duck You Sucker in '71 as Santerna, The Genius in '75 as the Captain, A Man Called Blade in '77 as Gerard Merton, and mentioned Buck at the Edge of Heaven in '91 as Bauman. I'll post his complete filmography of Western films after this episode is finished. Okay, now let's move on to who are those guys. Okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different in this episode. I'm going to mention some of the actors we know nothing about. Hopefully someone sees this episode and emails me or sends me a message on Facebook of any information we have. We've been looking for information on these people for a long time. The first one we have is Chet Bacon. Okay, Chet Bacon appeared in The Star in La Ciudad Maldita, which the English title is Red Harvest, in 1976. We have no idea who this actor really is. For years before the film was available on video and DVD, it was written in several books that Chet Bacon was an alias for Johnny Garco. When we finally were able to see the film, we laughed out loud that anyone would think or believe that Bacon was Garco. There's absolutely no resemblance between the two. I'm Facebook friends with Lone Fleming, or Lone Ferrick, who played Mrs. Wilson in the film. I asked her in message form on Facebook if she knew who Bacon was, and she did not. Someone asked director John Wood, or Juan Bosch is his real name, if he remembered who Bacon was, and he said he was a third-rate regional actor from Barcelona who wanted to make it into films. That's all I can tell you about him. To this day, he still remains a mystery. All I can tell you was he was a stage film actor in Barcelona, and that's the end. If anybody knows anything or any leads, please let me know. The next one we have is Fidel Gonzalez. We know a little bit more about him. Fidel Gonzalez is another mystery. His full name is Fidel Alvarez Cortesi Sanchez Garcia. He's a Spanish character actor. He appeared in 9 spaghetti westerns and he stands out in all of them. There's no information about him in any book I've read on the internet. He usually plays a Mexican peon and often as sort of a sidekick to the hero of the film, as in $10,000 for a Massacre. These are the films he appeared in. In The Shadow of Zorro in 62, he is a messenger. Lost Treasure of the Aztecs in 64, he plays a dance instructor. Johnny Yuma in 66, he plays Zorrito. $10,000 for a Massacre in 67, he plays Fidelio or Fidelius. Gatling Gun in 68, he's Gatlin's assistant. God Made Them, I Killed Him. In 68, he plays Job. The Nephews of Zorro in 68, he plays Pedro. Tequila Joe, 68, he plays an artist, and he ends his Western career in Sting of the West in 1972. He's so recognizable, but there's absolutely no information about him anywhere. So if anybody has any information on who he may be, please let me know. Then we move on to another mystery. Manuel Muniz. We know Manuel Muniz more by his alias Pajarito from the 2 Ringo films with Juliana Gemma. Apparently, he worked in front of and behind the cameras, as he was also a production assistant and property master, as well as an actor in films and television. He appeared in nearly 50 films and TV appearances between 53 and 76, yet there's no information about him at all. He often was credited under the aliases Mark Mellot, Mellot. He appeared in 16 spaghetti westerns. He was in both the Ringo films as Timoteo or Tim or Morning Glory, Dynamite Jim in 66 as Septa Torero, Long Days of Revenge in 66 as Doctor, Sugar Cult in 66 as Agonia or Agony, all as Pajarito. Ace High in 67 as the band leader. Longest Hunt, 68, Heathcliff as Mark Mellot. The Law of Violence in 69 as Joe. A Cry of Death in 71 as White, which is also the Federal Man in 71. The same film, different titles. Let's Go and Kill Sartana in 71 as Pajarito again. Plays an old man. Now they call him Sacramento as Pajarito as a widower. Return of Clint the Stranger as Pajarito, telegrapher or telegrapher. Watch Out, Gringo Sabata Will Kill in 72 as Peter, and again as Pajarito in 73 in Karate Fists and Beans as Zachary Todd, and in 74, Turn I'll Kill You. How can anybody be in 50 films and not have nothing about the guy? And last but not least, and this one I'm just going to present information. You make up your own mind on who this guy is. This has been going on for 50 years. For years, the identification of the bartender and For a Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, and Dirty Joe and My Name is Nobody has been debated. Lee Van Cleef stated in an article the bartender was a retired British railroad worker living in Almeria. He said the man could speak English and Spanish, so he went along with Lee to the various restaurants and bars. The IMDb says the actor is Antonio Palambi, while the German media claims Dirty Joe, the pool hall owner, is named Ulrich Muller. Lee says, or we came up to the conclusion that this guy, the Englishman, is supposedly his name is Joseph Bradley. Again, I'm just presenting information. I have no clue. Then he pops up again from 65 to 66 in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as a sentry, where Tuco's taking Blondie to the mission for recovery. A recent article states Palambi was not a professional actor. He was a production manager whose funny face must have attracted the attention of Sergio Leone, whom he often assisted. This is how the maestro offered him the beginning of Once Upon a Time in the West in the role of the terrified station master and more important role of Dirty Joe, the drunkard in My Name is Nobody, who owns the pool hall, where for a long sequence he shared the spotlight with Henry Fonda and Terence Hill. The man was in fact named Antonio Palombi, according to this article. Now, you tell me, does he look the same in all of these movies? To me, he looks different as the bartender than he did in the other films. So, are there three different actors, two different actors? I did see a German press book posted online a number of years ago that actually credited Dirty Joe as Ulrich Muller in print. So again, I'm just leaving this up to you. You make your decision. You can make comments along with this presentation, or you can send me an email or on Facebook. Okay. Now there again, the guy looks more like our station master and the sentry. Does he look like the bartender? He pops up again in a later film. That's not one of the Leone films. Okay, that's up to you. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Now let's move on to the film of the week, and it's Django the Bastard. Okay, Django the Bastard, one of the most iconic titles of the genre. This was a 1969 Italian film production. The Italian title is Django il Bastardo. The English titles are Django the Bastard, Django the Avenger, and it was released in the United States as The Stranger's Gundown. Director is Willie S. Regan. That's Sergio Gironi. Story, screenplay are by Antonio Di Teffi. That's Anthony Stefan and Sergio Gironi. Cinematography is by Gino Santini. It's in Technicolor and Techniscope. Music is by Vasco and Mancuso. Vasco is Vasily Kucherov, and Mancuso is Elcio Mancuso. It runs 107 minutes. The main actors are Django, or Johnny Shadow, played by Anthony Stefan. Major Rod Murdoch is played by Paolo Goslino. Luke Jack or Hugo Murdoch is played by Lou Camonte. Lieutenant Sam Hawkins is played by Vic Gazzara. Alita Murdoch is played by Rada Rassimov. And Captain Howard Ross is played by Jean Louise. A lot of secondary roles played by spaghetti western actors that you'll recognize by face, if not name. Williams is played by Teodora Cora. Brett, played by Carlo Gatti. Roland is played by Tomas Rudi. Evans, Celso Faria. Sheriff Reagan, Furio Menaconi. Nick, or Fuzzy, is played by Asario Peverolo. And his brother Renzo is one of the Murdoch henchmen, along with Pietro Torrisi. And then we have 5 of the Ukmars: Franco, Giovanni, Giancarlo, Clementi, and Sergio are all Murdoch henchmen. So the story goes, during the Civil War, betrayal of 3 Confederate officers, Lieutenant Sam Hawkins, played by Vic Gazzara, Captain Howard Ross, played by Jean Louise, and Major Rod Murdoch, played by Paolo Goslino, allowed the Northern troops to massacre an entire division of Southern soldiers. The only survivor of the massacre, Django, played by Anthony Stefan, goes in search of the 3 traitors after the end of the war. He's determined to avenge the death of his companions. When he arrives in town, the gunman is filmed from behind and above, as to give us indication where he's coming from. Very soon we find out that the man has supernatural powers. He appears out of nothing and may disappear without warning when people look the other way. Only 2 people are able to get in touch with him, and one of them, a woman named Alethea, or Alita Murdoch, played by Rada Rassimov, tells him the superstitious and frightened townspeople think he's a ghost. What if they are right? The stranger says. He eliminates 2 of the men, Ross and Hawkins, and prepares to settle accounts with the third, Major Rod Murdoch, who, terrified by the fate of his colleagues, he entrusts the defense of his own safety to a group of gunslingers. Although alone, Django uses all of his cunning and abilities to eliminate a large number of gunmen. These jumpy gunfighters are left frantically stuttering and drooling in fear of Django, a man they quickly begin to even question his physical existence. They begin shooting at moving shadows, fluttering blankets, and eventually each other. The few survivors see fit to abandon Murdoch to save their own lives. The next morning, Murdoch is killed in the same fashion as the other two, and the stranger leaves town as mysteriously as he had entered it. Okay, talking points. One of the legendary titles of the genre. Director Sergio Gironi takes this atmospheric and surreal Western to new horizons. The film looks and feels more like a gothic horror film than a Western. Several spaghetti westerns, including the Sartana character, would use the supernatural theme, but none are as explicit as in this film. Those films merely would hint at possibilities, but here the hero is a ghost, or that is how he appears. The atmospheric, dark, gloomy weather, green vegetation, and overall dark feel create a very strong horror atmosphere. This alone is probably the film's strongest aspect, along with the mysterious anti-hero. Stefan's acting style actually is used as an advantage in the film. Django walks at a very slow pace. This is often filmed with a certain showcasing touch, hinting at the character's supernatural being. Gino Santini's exceptional job of cinematography showcases this. He uses several odd angles to intensify some sequences. When Stefan guns down his first bunch, his walk to their bunkhouse is filmed in an effective way. Shots of him walking at a distance cut to shots looking down on him. Then when he begins to shoot, rapid cuts looking up at Stefan add the aforementioned intensity. It makes this otherwise simple scene a unique intro. This film has noticeably low budget, but makes the most of what was available to make a very good film. It was shot in Italy. The script calls for a few desert sequences, but only sandpits outside of Rome were available to Gironi. Most of these low-budget spaghettis used the Italian locations and turn out to be very impressive films. This became an advantage here. The directing is very well done by Gironi. He keeps the pace going strong. He creates an atmosphere to make up for his small budget and creates a very atmospheric film. He uses innovative camera work for good effect, such as an early use of slow motion death. He uses a kaleidoscope effect in one scene and mostly night scenes for almost half the movie. These are filmed in a skillful way that never obscures the view and keeps the film interesting. Supposedly, this was of interest and was used in making High Plains Drifter by Clint Eastwood. As you know, Clint used several spaghetti western actors, Dan Vadas, uh, some of the other, Walter Barnes was another that he used in his westerns, and so he was familiar with the genre, may have seen Django the Bastard and used those as aspects of High Plains Drifter. Okay, actor profiles. Django Johnny Shadow, played by Anthony Stefan. His real name is Antonio Luis de Teffi von Hohenholz. As again, we've talked about him multiple times. He was born in Rome on July 21st, 1930. He was a director, assistant director, writer, cameraman, and film actor. Stefan was the son of Brazilian ambassador and Formula One driver Manuel de Teffi von Hohenholz, who was born in 1905 and died in 1967. He was married to Antonella Caramazza La Lomia from 1945 to 2000. She was born in 1945 and died in 2009. They were married from 71 to 76. And he's the father of director, writer, cinematographer, author Manuel de Teffi, who was born in 72, and Louise de Teffi, born in 76, and author Chiara Antonia de Teffi, born in 83, with artist Susanna de Melo Sparazzini. Stefan appeared in 27 Euro westerns. He died in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, from pancreatic cancer on June 4th, 2004. He was 6 weeks shy of turning 74. If you want more information about him, look at our special episode number 19 on just Anthony Stefan. Then we have Major Rod Murdoch, played by Paolo Gaslino. Paolo Gaslino was an Italian supporting actor who was born in Senegal, Marche, Italy on January 9, 1929. He was a film and TV actor who usually played villainous roles. He appeared in 15 spaghetti westerns, was married to dancer and singer Helen Sedlak, who was born in 1938. She's still living. They were married from 1964 to 1986. Gaslino died in Rome on August 17, 1992. He was 63. Then we have Luke Jack Hugo Murdoch, who was played by Lou Comante. That was an alias for Lucio Rossi. It was one of those faces like Rick Boyd and Al Mullick that you never forgot. Rossi usually played henchmen and psychos, but could also play sympathetic roles on occasion, as in The Forgotten Pistolero. He was born Luciano Rossi Romano in Rome on November 28, 1934, and appeared in 28 spaghetti westerns. He often appeared under the aliases Tom Clay, again as mentioned above, Luca Monte, Edward Ross, and Edwin G. Ross. He suffered from a debilitating disease later in life and died in Rome on May 29, 2005. He was 90. We covered him previously in episodes 34 and 83. Lieutenant Sam Hawkins was played by Vic Gazzara. Vic Gazzara was born Giancarlo Sisti. He appeared in 18 films between 67 and 82. 4 of these were westerns where he used the name Viv Gazzara or Victoriano Gazzara. I can find no biographical information on it, so he could still be living. Captain Howard Ross was played by Jean Louise. Jean Louise was another of those mysterious names with no identity for a long time. Because his name was so common, nothing would come up on the internet, and there was nothing more than his name and filmography listed in books. Finally, we found out his name was Jean-Emile Louis in Meknes, Morocco on February 5, 1934. He appeared in 20 films starting in 1966 and ending in 1979. He then became almost exclusively a voice dubber for French films. He died sometime during the night of December 30th to 31st in 2020 in Nice, France, at the age of 86. We covered him in depth in episode number 132. And last but not least, we have Alethea or Alida Murdoch, played by Rada Rasimov. She was born Rada Disarmovic on March 3, 1941 in Trieste, Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, Italy. She was a producer and film actress. She's the sister of actor Ivan Rasimov, born in 1938. He died in 2003. Now, it's usually stated they were twins, but they were not. They were born at different times. Ivan appeared in spaghetti westerns under the aliases of Sean Todd, as in Chimango. Rada was married to singer, musician, actor Gianni Musi, and is the mother of actress Maria Stella Musi and Masia Musi. We remember her best as Maria in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where Angel Eyes gets his information on Bill Carson. She appeared in 5 spaghetti westerns and is still active today. We covered her in greater detail in episode number 85. Okay, let's move on to, how about autograph of the week? Okay, autograph of the week. This is the last one I've got. And this is Ron Carey. So little on the bottom, I can't even read it now, but I saw him at a Hollywood collector show. And Ron Carey was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1935. He died of a stroke in Los Angeles in 2007. He played Joe Dalton here in the Lucky Luke TV series, and we also know him as Levitt in Barney Miller. So that's the autograph of the week. How about moving on to Tom's poster attic? Okay, Tom's Poster Attic. I don't have anything on Viva Maria, but I do have the Belgium poster for Django the Bastard. Also have the American press book, Stranger's Gun Down. A lot of people don't think it was released in the United States, but it was. There's the other poster artwork, which was more from the Italian or European release. Okay, now we'll move on to the CD LP of the week and Django the Bastard and Viva Maria. Okay, let's talk about the composer, Georges Delerue of Viva Maria for a minute. Georges Henri Jean Baptiste Delerue was born in Roubaix, Nord, France on March 12, 1925. He was a composer, conductor, songwriter, musician, piano and clarinet, and actor. He composed over 350 scores for film and television. He was most famous for his scores for The Pumpkin Eater, Julia, A Man for All Seasons, and won the 1979 Oscar for Best Score for the film A Little Romance. Viva Maria was his only spaghetti western score. Delerue is married to Micheline Gautron, who was born in 28 and died in 2001. They were married from 59 to 62. He was the father of musician Claire Delerue. George died on March 20th, 1992 in Burbank, California, 1 week after turning 67. Okay, the Viva Maria soundtrack was originally released on an EP in 1965 in France on Philips number 437.161, only contained 4 tracks of music. It was also released later that year by United Artists with 13 tracks of music. Then it was released in 1966 in Germany on an LP by RCA. Again in 75 in Japan on an EP and LP by United Artists with 14 tracks of music. Was released also in 75 in the UK on an LP. And then finally in 2004 in the US on CD on Masters Film Music, SRS 2017. This one has 28 tracks of music with a listing time of 53 minutes and 1 second. The value on these range from $6 to $24. They all have that same cover on all the LPs, the EPs, except that one I showed, and the CD. They're really cheap. If you go to any record store, probably even today, and look in soundtracks, you'll see it probably in the dollar bin. So they're readily available. Then we move on to Django the Bastard. The composers here were Vasco Vasily Kucherov, who went by Vasco. He was born in Sofia Grad, Bulgaria in 1937. He was a composer and conductor, and then he moved to Italy where he worked with Nino Rota and then formed a duo composing team with Elio Mancuso, which became Vasco and Mancuso. They composed 8 scores for spaghetti westerns, while Vasco himself scored 6 more scores on his own. Vasco died in Rome on May 21st, 2011, at the age of 74. There's nothing on Mancuso as far as a biography on him. He was actually Italian, but that's all I can tell you. The CD of this, Django the Bastard, was released in 2020 on Beat Records on CDCR 140. It has 26 tracks of music with a listing time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 44 seconds. The value ranges anywhere from $9 to $13, and that's what we have on the CD. Okay, let's do Book of the Week. Okay, Book of the Week, I mentioned this is coming out just a few weeks ago, and it's a Spanish book called American Western en España, which is American and Western in Spain, by Carlos Aguilar, with a prologue by Jay's ex-wife, Diana Loris. Came out this year in 2025. It's on Classic Moviola number 5. It's in Spanish, but there's tons of pictures in here There's color posters in the center. It's got a filmography in the back and an index, very easily to read and get information of it. So if you're a historian and want to get more information on the American Westerns, the co-productions, go ahead and pick that up. I got it from Amazon USA. It took about 2 weeks because it did ship from Spain. One thing I did find in here that I never paid attention to was the film Gunfight with Johnny Cash and who else was that? Chris Christopherson was filmed. The bull ring fight where they have the showdown was actually filmed in the Madrid bull ring in Almeria, in Madrid, I'm sorry. That bull ring was also featured in for a few dollars more when they break Indio out of prison and they shoot the guards. That's the Madrid bull ring. Okay, now let's wrap things up with the news of the week. Okay, news of the week. First of all, we have a new British spaghetti western oriented book called The Italian Western Violent Image, Savage Soundtrack, The Music of Spaghetti Westerns. This is by author John Mansell. This was released on April 8th by Bear Manor Media. It's in English and has 212 pages. I just ordered this from Amazon USA. Have not gotten my copy yet, so I can't tell you much more about it than what I just did. Apparently, they're interviews with the different composers of the genre. Then there's been a reissue of the Italian CD La Morte non contra I Dollari. That's Death at Owl Rock in '66 by composers Nora Orlandi and Robbie Poitvin. This was released on April 15th by Beat on Beat BCM 9620 with 27 tracks of music and listening time of 56 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's just a re-release of an out-of-print CD that was released quite a while ago. Then there's a new Australian Blu-ray release of The Dead Don't Hurt, which came out in 2023, directed by Viggo Mortensen, starring Viggo, Vicky Krieps, Garrett Dillahunt, and this was released on Via Vision on April 16th. It's in English with English subtitles. Extras include the making of featurette, a conversation between Jane Campione and Viggo Mortensen with deleted scenes and a trailer. I didn't care for this movie, but I know people like Scott Long really liked it, so it's up to you. A new German DVD release of Shalico. It seems like we've had a lot of releases of Shalico lately, which came out in '68, directed by Edward Dmytryk and starred Sean Connery, Brigitte Bardot, was released on April 17th. It's on the PDAX film label. It's in Dolby Digital 2.0 English and German with German subtitles, only for the parts omitted from the German theatrical version. The running time is 108 minutes. Extras include Illustrator Film Courier number 2276. It's a PDF 12-page booklet. Image gallery with 11 lobby cards, most of them in German, and a German trailer. And then we have usually our Boot Hill section. We have rest in peace, Robert McGinnis. Most of you are going to say, who's Robert McGinnis, as I did, till I looked him up who he was. He was a renowned painter, illustrator. He died at the age of 99 in Old Greenwich, Connecticut on March 10th. Bob was one of the most prolific illustrators of the 20th century. It's likely you have seen one or more of his artwork images somewhere. They appeared in magazines such as the Saturday Evening Post, National Geographic, Good Housekeeping, McCall's, Reader's Digest, and Guideposts. On many paper book covers in the form of personal project paintings that included many Old West scenes, and also on movie posters for culturally significant movies. McGinnis was featured on several spaghetti Western American posters, such as The Big Gun Down, the picture of both Sean and Sean sitting on boxes of dynamite shooting their machine guns. That was done by McGinnis. And the Big Gun Down and Duck You Sucker Big Gun Down was the poster that you see on the LP cover. Then we have, rest in peace, Colin Fox. Canadian actor Colin Fox passed away unexpectedly at the age of 86 on April 5th in Fergus, Ontario, Canada. Born Colin R. Fox in Aldershot, Ontario on November 20th, 1938, he starred in a large number of films, but it was his TV appearances that really cemented his acting skills. Between 1986 and 1987, he was featured in two dramas, thrillers, and mystery series. Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He also appeared in Law and Order and the children's ghost stories Goosebumps by R.L. Stine. He also voiced the character of Dragster of Doom on Beetlejuice, the animated series which ran from 89 to 91. Fox appeared as Gavin Hume in the Euro-Western TV series The Campbells in 1986 and again in 1990. Then we have Ted Kotcheff. Canadian director Ted Kotcheff died in Nuevo Nayarit, Mexico on April 10th, 3 days after turning 94. Burned Velechko Toshev in Toronto, Ontario, Canada on April 7, 1931. Ted studied and received an English degree at the University of Toronto before joining the Canadian Broadcasting Company in 1952, where he directed drama programs. He then relocated to London in 1957, where he worked in the theater and television, receiving several awards. He returned to Canada and then the United States. Many of Kotcheff's movies have been comedic and have met with such success at the box office, including Fun with Dick and Jane in 77, Who is Killing the Great Chefs of Europe in 78, Switching Channels in 88, and both Weekend at Bernie's movies in 89 and 93. He also directed Sylvester Stallone's first Rambo movie, First Blood, in 82. Ted directed one Euro-Western, Billy Two Hats, in 73 with Gregory Peck and Desi Arnaz Jr. And last but not least, we have voice actor Juan Antonio Galvez, Spanish voice actor and dubbing director who died outside Madrid, Spain on April 11th. He was 77. Born on December 22, 1947, his deep voice was a pleasure to listen to. Whether firm, soft, romantic, cynical, or harsh, he had one of the most distinctive and recognizable voices in the world of voice acting in Spain. He was a regular voice of Dirk Benedict, Enrique LaSalle, Dennis Hopper, Tom Skerritt, Peter Coyote, and Mandy Patinkin, among others. He dubbed several spaghetti westerns, both when they were originally released and in DVD form. He voiced several spaghetti westerns that Herman Kobos was on, including Lola Colt or Black Tigress, and Mario Van Peebles in Posse, and Chris Christopherson in Outlaw Justice. Okay, that'll wrap it up for this week. Just to mention that the next episode we do is going to be a special on Once Upon a Time in the West. Jay and I are going to go over how we got involved with the narration, and we're going to do a comparison of scenes of Once Upon a Time in the West with their American Western counterparts. So I invited author Henry Park to come on, who's done his book on the best of Westerns of all time, to do a comparison on the films, different scenes, how they relate to each other. Okay, so until then, I'll say adios until we meet again. Adios, amigos.